So, I'm gonna try to pronounce my words properly. Just realised now I'm in this desert environment. I talk overly lazily, can't even hear what I'm saying. So, and I'm also gonna try to explain some of the ideas behind my videos. I've just been recording them and letting you make your own conclusions. Like I had a video about kids running around in the restaurant, and I was trying to get the idea that over here in Jordan, where they have a lot more kids than we have in the West, because it's a Muslim country and we value children, and we're not overly worried about how much we don't value children, or we don't count how expensive children are, really, because it's not really a thing. You know, having freedom for kids, to be a real family person, you have to realise you've got to have freedom, you don't have to be overly cautious, things like that. Let me comment on what's going on here. So we don't have pets in Jordan in the normal sense. First of all, we think it's cruel to put collars on pets. I don't think British people are cat lovers or animal lovers. I just said cat because in fact, if anything, Arabs are the cat lovers of the world, possibly. I'll explain that in a second. This cat here in front of us is the mother of many generations. I brought this cat when it was a kitten from one of the schools I was teaching at. It came one of 4, I think. One of its friends is still alive. So yeah, what was I saying? So dogs, cats, whatever, we don't put collars on them, because just like you wouldn't put collars on a human being. It's restrictive, it's not natural. We don't have animals inside the house, partly because it's dirty, but also, so you might have seen my earlier video about washing your bum and things like that. Muslims are the most hygienic people, so they hold the standard for what is clean, I suppose. Similar to Japanese people, I'd say, in some ways. They've kept some. Anyway, yeah. So what am I talking about in this video? A couple of things about treating animals nicely. Oh, why is it bad to keep animals inside? I'll give you an example of dogs, especially since it's British people keep a lot of dogs inside the house, right? I'll give you the alternative, then I'll explain maybe what's wrong with keeping dogs inside the home. So our dogs, we don't have dogs at the moment, but the way it works is the stray dog is walking past stray sounds like a bad thing. It's normal over here. It's just a wild dog. All animals are wild here, basically. They're not really owned. It's walking past the house. We give it some food. Dogs are very smart. They understand the human wants to give it a job, and then it'll recognize all the family members, which is a lot more than most in the West in terms of family members. A lot more faces to remember, let's say, and bark at everybody else. You know, be a guard dog. They're very smart, dogs, animals generally, and then they go and play with their friends at night, because they're not, you know, on a collar or bound by human rules. Yeah, let me talk about cats as well, how they're treated here. You know, I've seen like a cat. Yeah, cats are very popular in the Muslim world, especially. I think it's connected to the fact that one of the greatest followers of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his nickname was Father of the Cat, Abu Huraira, and that's because he took care of so many cats. And since then, you'd have things like, you'd have a cat on the doorstep of a shop, and big grown men, whatever, would quietly walk over these cats. It's considered bad to even disturb animals, you know. Things like that. They're everywhere, cats especially. Yeah, Yeah, and so I was actually going to make the video about technology, and I'll quickly talk about that. The reason why I started recording this in the first place was I saw my son, who's usually stuck on TikTok videos, spending a lot of times with cats, and he's the one who's actually made these cats more less scared of us, actually, because until this morning they were, really too scared to come out of this bush. So let's give you some perspectives in the garden. The garden goes quite far back. You can't really see the end of the garden that way. There's more of the garden that way, car that way, and stuff like that. So yeah, and of course kittens like playing. My son got this little stick from somewhere. He's an expert in getting kittens. His target is to be able to pick the kittens up. Takes a bit of time. They're not, they're wild animals, let's say. Anyway, so yeah. Oh god, I just realised I wasn't even in shot. Anyway, so what am I trying to say? I want the kids to get off screens. Why do I want them off screens? Because then they understand how real human relationships work, even animal relationships work. I don't think British people really understand how animal relationships really work, because they effectively enslave them and give them fake food and all this kind of stuff. We give them our leftovers, the real food, not processed. Well, we give them processed food as well, it's true. But interestingly, we give them salami. They don't really want to eat the salami. Tells you something about processed food. Yeah, and I find that increasingly people don't understand human relationships. They don't have patience, that's one thing. But also they get attached to unreal view of relationships with the world, even with plants and things, because they don't spend time growing things or anything like that. They don't understand how all of the world really operates when you're so distant from the real world, because you're so attached to the screen 2D flat version of the world. Yeah, trying to do something more interesting. Come on, do something more interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I think that leads to pornography, because pornography is, it's not real, it's acting, hopefully. It's even abuse and all that kind of terrible stuff, but you get connected with that. You have to be quite disconnected from the real world to be attracted to things like that. And it's obviously very common. I think 1/4 of the internet traffic in the world is pornography. Yeah, I think generally it can lead to a lot of unhealthy behaviors. I was watching a video about somebody who's saying it's okay to have lots of sex with lots of strangers. I think that's a topic I want to talk about. A kind of disconnection with what makes us truly happy. We are generally in the West very disconnected from what makes us happy. We need to relearn that. So we think in the West generally that what makes us happy is more stuff, and it's completely untrue. Psychologists have known what makes us happy is connection and meaning and things like that, deep things like that. So connection doesn't mean football matches where you're just making, oh, my team won, which is not really your team at all. You're not really making any effort to score a goal or something like that, and you're using very limited vocabulary and sounds. It's all just tribal, really. So that's not real connection. Real connection is talking about meaningful things that affect your life. What makes you sad, what makes you happy, truly. Relationships which are basically dead in the West. Just to give one statistic, 16 to 30-year-olds, 50% of them are not in long-term relationships or had any sex, which is terrible for that particular age group, where hormones are most high and you're supposed to really develop relationships by then. So that's some of my thoughts. I haven't been really describing some of my thoughts in the other videos. Like my first video in Jordan was about what was it about? It was after midnight, and we just reached Jordan, and we could see lots of people clapping. There's a lot you could try to guess what was happening over there, but people were celebrating really loud bagpipes and whatever. And so what was going on there is that they were just celebrating people who'd arrived, family members who had arrived, you know. So that's what can you learn from that? You can learn. Oh, all the kittens have run away now. Never mind. What can you learn is that appreciation of other people. That's one of the reasons why we're attached to technology, is because I don't think cats play with these. Do cats play with this? No, they're too grown up. You're too grown up, aren't you, Mum? It's just the mum of all those kittens. We are attached to technology because we can't appreciate other human beings. We don't take time to talk to each other and be interested in each other. That's a massive problem, I find. People just don't have much interest in talking to other people. They don't take interest in other people's lives. So when they say, "How are you? What's going on in your life?" First of all, the first response is nothing, which is a terrible response. You have to make an effort to explain what's going on in your life. It's part of encouraging the conversation to continue. And if there really isn't much, then that's something to talk about, because you're missing out on life, and really should be making an effort to enjoy life and make the most of it. And so Jordanians are completely on the other side of the scale in terms of being social. One of the reasons why I'm here is because of that. I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Jordan, last time I moved to Jordan, I should say, I was relatively new to their culture, even though I'd gone there many times for holiday. And I was going past people's houses in the street that I was new to, and people were saying, "Welcome to my house." They're saying in Arabic, "Faddal," and I was a bit confused. So I asked my neighbours, and he was confused that I was confused, because he said, "Of course, everybody should be welcoming you to their house. That's normal." Of course, that's very weird for British people. Like, you don't have British people. British people barely make eye contact, especially in London. Never mind welcoming you to their house if they've never seen you before. That's a weird thing, definitely. You'd probably be scared in England if that happened to you. Anyway, too many ideas in one video. Hope you enjoyed the little kittens and some of the thoughts.